Hi, and welcome to Kate Anjou's Book Reviews, the place where we shine a light on indie books and their authors. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to be discussing the upcoming novel from Jeremy Megargee. It's called Soulmates, and it is a whirlwind of all kinds of gritty darkness. Technically, yes, it's a dark romance, but it's so rooted in things like mental health, our surroundings, nature versus nurture, all of these sorts of things. And it kind of goes beyond what you would expect from a standard sort of dark romance. It's not to put a slight on dark romance novels as a general at all. You know, I love a dark romance, but it's just not what you would normally, it's not got the energy, I think is the best way to describe it. It's not got the energy of what you would normally get from a dark romance. It's a lot more depressing, but like in the best way, So yeah, come with me to find out more. So as always, I generally like to start with the characters. For me, having characters that I can get behind, that I root for, that I can either love to hate or hate to love or anything like that, is really pinnacle to me enjoying a story. Now, these two main characters, we have Ambrose and Dandelion. They are pretty deplorable in a lot of ways. Dark romance, but they all have their reasons. They both have their reasons, and they're somewhat unusual reasons. Dandelion is suffering horrific, violent and sexual abuse from her uncle, who she lives with. And Ambrose suffers from something called Cotard's delusion, which is basically the mental disorder where you feel like you're already dead, like you're just walking around in a corpse. It can vary from person to person, but certainly in Ambrose's case, he just feels like he may as well be dead. Like he doesn't have any emotion, he doesn't feel anything like on that level. He doesn't get excited, he doesn't get sad, he literally is just monotoning it through life. He describes, because it's all done in first person, so there's a multi-POV narrative here, and he describes how he just feels like he can literally feel his organs decaying inside him. Obviously that's not the case. He is alive, you know, technically speaking, but that's just the way that he feels about himself. And so when he meets Ambrose by chance on the internet, she sparks something in him that he has never felt before, and these two find a depravity within each other that electrifies the other. It pushes each other. They take things to such an extreme. This is more than just a dynamic power play. This is more than just prove my love for you or anything like that. It goes beyond, and it's about survival and escaping a situation and pushing things to such an extreme because you feel such disdain for your existence. And these are the kinds of themes that we are given in Soulmates, and the way that it's written is just, yeah. You know what, let's go to the writing. So Jeremy Megargee, I have been friends with him online for a while now, and his content and the way that he speaks and writes is just a poetry. It's effortless and deep and just filled with meaning and imagery, and it's visceral, and it's just, it gets you in your gut, you know? And it almost, this book is so rooted in realism, but it almost feels fantastical because of the way that he writes. It's like actual magic on a page. He is gothic and dark and, as I said, poetic. And he uses imagery to really get under our skin and to take things that we would normally find encouraging or comforting and twist it into something deviant and wicked. And this book is the absolute epitome of all of that. It's not a light book. You know, like a lot of dark romances, I think that's the difference. A lot of dark romances, whilst they deal with really appalling things and the real darker sides to humanity, there's still often a levity with them, you know, whereas this one, it just wrenches on your soul a little bit, you know. And it's, I honestly, I don't know that I've ever read a book quite like this. It's something else, I tell you. And he writes what he knows, and I'm not saying that he is like a really dark person or anything, but this is what I mean when I say like he pulls from things that would give you comfort or give you like a sense of security, because those are the things that he loves. And Jeremy is just such a sweetheart, and you know, so him pulling from the things that he loves and the things that you probably love as well as like a reader of this type of fiction, and then just turning it into something dark so it's no longer comfortable for you, is just such a wickedly just brilliant way of writing. And it really gets under your skin. Like, this book will get under your skin. So yeah, that's what I have to say about Jeremy's writing. Just chef's kiss. So I've already touched on the mental health aspects of this book, but it'd be really remiss of me to not delve into this into more detail, just because it is such a prevalent aspect of the book. Now, I am not a psychiatrist. I have no psychological training, anything like that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I have my own experiences with mental health, my own mental disorders. I have, you know, I can speak for the accounts given to me by my loved ones and associates, but that's it. Anything that I say is not to be taken as a science, or probably even accurate. But I'll do my best. So yeah, the mental health that is sort of looked at in these books is very extreme. Obviously, Cotard's delusion is an extremely rare disorder, and you'll hear from the interview with Jeremy that he did like a lot of research into that. But the way that we get inside Ambrose's head, thanks to the first person narrative, we very quickly get a sense of just how despairing that must be, and how he could completely disassociate from the world and the people around him. He sleeps all day. His only kind of like connection with the outside world is what he finds on the internet, and it seems to be mostly on the dark web. So, you know, that is not rainbows and sunshine. It is dark and twisted and evil, and that is really his only connection to humanity. And I say that in the loosest terms, because I feel like anything you see on the dark web is not, I mean, I suppose it's all humanity to some respect, but you know what I mean? It's not, you know, it's not going out and having coffee with your friends or like going to watch a game or whatever, you know. It's going to do things to you on a mental level. And then when you add in the fact that he is so dissociated from himself, from others, from the world, that is just a concoction that is bubbling to break free and come out in ways that is nothing but destructive. And we see this happen in the book. there are some parts of it where to some people it may not even be like, it's not gory particularly, it's not you know, torturous in the traditional sense, but it is so brutal and cruel. It took me like a moment. I had to like step back. I was like, okay, because as we know, like I really like to empathize with our MCs. I like to be able to find something in them that I can relate to, and it's difficult enough relating to a character like this. Sure, I can understand a character like this, and sure, I can get like what makes A do B do C, but that was just such an extreme behavior, and he did it. He wasn't coerced. It was just something he thought up doing, and he felt nothing doing it. And I can't imagine even thinking of something like that without feeling absolutely horrified by myself, you know? So it was a real interesting scene because I could not find a single thing to relate to in that moment with our MC, and I'm expected to follow him in his progress and his journey. And this is just a testament to Jeremy's writing. I did. And it wasn't even like, oh, I've got to read this book for this. I wanted to see how I was going to come back to this character from this act. And then on the flip side, you have our FMC, Dandelion. And she, in a lot of ways, is just as unhinged. She uses people, she manipulates, she uses sex as a weapon. She, you know, has so much darkness that's been thrust upon her, no pun intended, from her uncle. And she takes those same weapons, that same arsenal that has been inflicted on her whole life, and then in a way inflicts it on other people. And it's not done in the same way, and in fairness, it's very, very sadistic in what she does and how she toys with her prey. But again, she doesn't really think anything of it, and in fact it's only because of something else later that she regrets it at all. But it's not that she regrets the act, it's just she just regrets the fallout from the act. So again, we're in this position where it's like, how am I going to relate to these characters? But you don't relate to them, but you still root for them. And it's more than just because of what they've been through or their psychology. It's because they're doing it for each other. They're doing it to escape their horrific circumstances. And you can see that this is usually in a dark romance, there's like a dominant and submissive, but honestly, these two they're on a paring, and you would think that Ambrose would be the dominant and Dandelion is the submissive, and it kind of does go that way. But then there's these things that happen where the dynamics switch and Dandelion holds all the power. And then, you know, we see these glimpses where she just really comes through on herself, and she strives and thrives, and she is no longer this meek little shadow of a person that her uncle has turned her into, but she's this real force to be reckoned with. And in a way, despite the fact that they are doing these awful things, it's beautiful. And that's why you want to see these characters grow and develop, because I don't know, I guess like obviously it's rare to have these sorts of situations and this type of mentality, but I do feel that everyone struggles with mental health. Everyone struggles with, you know, different things going on for themselves emotionally. And it's almost like if they can do it, I can get through this in a way, hopefully through more wholesome and positive means. But yeah, like it kind of gives you a hope. Because you always want to see someone who's suffering do better. And I can't think of a worse thing than something like Cotard's delusion, where you just feel so disconnected from everything and everyone. And how he gets to a point where he has those emotions start for him it's rooted in pain and suffering, but in its own way, it's kind of beautiful, but jarring. It's just, honestly, this book just makes you feel such a complexity of emotions, like, yeah, like more than I've read in a while in a book. It constantly plays with your moralities, your ethics, and you know, while these two characters are pushing each other's limits, this book is pushing your limits, I swear. Like, again, not new to dark romance or dark books or horror or anything like that. Like, I have read some horrific things, but this book just does it in a way that's rooted in a grittiness. It's not funny. It's not fun. It's not pleasant. It's not an easy read at times. And yet you just still keep going. And a book that can do that, a book that shows me the absolute worst in humans and still makes me root for a character and still makes me want to see this through, that's a damn good book. So, if I could describe the colour of this book, it would be grey. And not because of like morally grey. I just mean because we're from these first person narratives, we see everything through their eyes, right? And especially with Ambrose, he's so disconnected. He's so dissociated. Everything is just blah. Everything is just grey. It's granite, you know? And he lives in like an urban area, and he sees everything through a very decayed lens. And all he wants is to feel. All he wants is to emote. And he just, no matter what he does, he just can't get there. And so that really just seeps from the pages. And as a result, everything is just grey. And then on the flip side, you have Dandelion, who is colourful in so many ways. She has streaks of rainbow in her hair. She dresses very cute, and she likes innocent things in a lot of ways. But the abuse that she suffered strips her of all of that. It strips her of her colour, her vibrancy. And it's only when she has these moments of taking control, even though these moments are instructed by Ambrose, she sets the scene. She takes control of the moments and the things within the moments that she can. So she comes alive. And then that's when you see her vibrancy come through. But for the most part, again, her world is pretty grey. She lives out in nature. She lives in like near the woods and the forest. And I'm not sure if it's ever specifically mentioned, but I know that Jeremy comes from Appalachia. I can never pronounce it, and I know I pronounce it wrong every time. And we pronounce it right in the interview. I just can't remember what it is, you know. But the Appalachian, the woods in West Virginia. And so I don't know if it's specifically mentioned that that's where it's set, but that is where it's set in Jeremy's mind. So imagine that. So even though she's surrounded by nature and this unbelievable beauty, the abuse that she suffers strips her of that. And while she feels at home in nature, she does these really deranged things in nature, but she also takes back her power. So it's a very contradictory thing where it's like she takes back her power. She grows confident, but she's using the abuse. She's using what she's learned from the abuse to fuel those things. So yeah, it's a whole thing, but I would say that this book is very grey because it's bleak and it's dark and it's just deranged and fairly devoid of any kind of happiness or humour. But as I said, in all the best ways. Yeah. I also just want to say that there's a place of sanctuary where Dandelion goes in her mind. And there she's like a mermaid. She's weightless in water where nothing can touch her. And she just floats and is at peace for the most part until the predators from below catch up with her. But it is a place of sanctuary where she switches off and lets her mind just leave her body. And even though the sea is beautiful, and even though we associate the colours of blue and aqua and teal and all these kind of colours, there's still a murkiness there, because not too far below the surface is her attacker. And so even the moments of reprieve, even the moments where she's at peace in nature, whether it's mentally or physically, it's never truly a safe place. It's never really seen in the light that it should be, where all of these colours come through, because these spaces are corrupted by a darkness that just inks through everything, turning it into something dark and black and grey. And it's haunting. This book is haunting. I can't wait till it comes out and for you all to read it. So unless I start going into spoilers with specifics, that's kind of all I have to say about Soulmates. But I hope that it has tantalized you enough to get excited. It will be coming out in autumn. We don't have a specific release date yet. It's too early days. But I'm really, really glad to be able to give you this exclusive look at this new book. For all of Jeremy's other works, check out Amazon. And also for some of his more recent works, he has now been signed up by the publishing house Curious Corvid. You can see one of his books there, Heart of Monsters, which is fantastic. And yeah, so just pop on Amazon or Curious Corvid's website and you'll be able to see either one or both of the places, all of his back catalogue. He also does a lot of work in anthologies. So again, check those out and you'll get a little taste of Jeremy's writing and his larger works. You'll get a full old chomp, because this is a writer that doesn't hold back. This is a writer that just entices you, pulls you in, and you are there to stay. And so by the time Soulmates comes out in autumn, you guys will be chomping at the bit, wanting more, and this is going to give you that. I'm very excited to have a proper copy of it. And also as well, I've only read the very first edition. I mean, that's how early it is. So, you know, I'm sure there'll be re-edits and additions and deductions over the coming months. So, you know, I am so excited to see what the finished product will be like. And yeah, just see it in its full completion, because this is the first draft and my socks were knocked off. So can't wait to see what else it evolves into. great things, I'm sure. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed today's review. If you are listening on podcast, then just keep listening and you'll be able to hear the interview between Jeremy and I. It's a really interesting interview. Jeremy is so eloquent and so charming and so wonderful. So if you're not familiar with who he is, you will be by the end of it, and I can't imagine that you won't love him. And then if this is YouTube, then just head to my channel, Kate Anjou's Book Reviews, and you'll be able to see the interview there as a separate video. But thank you very much for tuning in today. However you've tuned in, I really do appreciate it, as do the authors that I represent whilst they are on my show. And yeah, please go check out their works. You can check out my social media, all under Kate Anjou's Book Reviews. Instagram and TikTok have full stops between each word, but Facebook is just as is. And feel free to DM me if you've got any feedback. Pop me a comment down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, review, rate, everything that you can. Every little bit helps. It helps to get visibility out there, and visibility with this show is so important because we want these authors to be seen and heard and read. And I can't do that unless people follow and listen and check their stuff out. So anything that you can do to support this channel, I really, really, really appreciate it. And you can always pop me an email at kateanjousbookreviews@outlook.com finally. So yeah, next month, very excited to have the amazing J.N. Stein guest on my show. We will be discussing her latest novel, Choosing Fate, which is the third book in the Stone Sister series. All are available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. So if you want to do a quick speed read of these books before the show, please do. And it will be a speed read. You will devour these books. They are werewolf romanticities, but they are just so, they're just so good. And if you've seen my social media, or you know I've been championing these books for the last sort of like month or two since I've started reading them, and I literally cannot get enough. So I am absolutely thrilled to have J.N. Stein on the show talking about these books. We will be focusing on the latest one, Choosing Fate, but because it's the third in the series, we will, I have no doubt, touch on the other books as well as her upcoming projects, because I tell you what, this woman loves a tease. But yeah, can't wait for you to join us on that one. And yeah, hopefully see you in the socials and see you in the comments. Thank you so much. Bye.